Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. With me today for the second straight week, we have Ryan Blake filling in for Zach Moore. Good morning, Ryan. How are you today?
I can't complain. It's my sister's birthday, so we're heading over there for brunch after this, and it's a good day. It's a beautiful day. Hopefully the snow melts, but I don't see it anytime soon.
Oh, man. It's going to be 38 degrees on Tuesday, and it's going to feel like spring.
Oh yeah,
Like, that's a solid 20 degrees warmer than it's been. This is like the worst winter I can remember in a long, long time. I feel like this is even worse than that year where we got like three 10 plus inch snowstorms in the matter of 3 weeks. You remember that?
I
And we
do.
were all like, and we were all stuck in our house for like over a week,
Yep.
like after the third one at least. But like it wasn't 15 degrees every single day. I'm
Right,
pretty
and it wasn't
sure
frozen over.
I'm pretty sure my car's resale value has gone through the floor because of all the ice around our parking spaces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Cleaning out around the cars, especially when there's a layer of. It's. I mean, the layer of freezing rain was at least like 3, 4 inches thick. I feel like, and
oh
yeah,
yeah,
digging the cars out of that was no fun at all.
yeah. And
Rough.
I dug out Sunday night when it snowed, and then but my wife and I each have a space open, but the snow between each of our spaces and the neighbor's spaces is like there's a ton of, because we live in a townhouse, we don't have like a yard to throw the snow in.
Hmm.
So it's like there's only a certain places that you can put the snow. So it's between the spaces. So you have to be precise. And if one of you parks a little cockeyed, the other person's scraping ice with their car.
Oh yeah.
It's a pain. Snow does nothing for me. It's done nothing for me since I got out of school. So
Yeah.
like I'm good. You can go away. I'm going to see 3 Days Grace on March 13th with my buddy,
Mm.
and we were talking about playing golf beforehand. I think I just said March 13th, and I was like, assuming that all the snow is melted. I mean, that's really only like 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away.
Yeah.
Is all this snow going to be gone by then? You're talking a foot and a half of snow
It
that's
better
covered
be.
with ice, and the highest temperature is going to be 38 over the next 10, 15 days. I don't know. I don't know. And that's about as much time as I'm willing to spend talking about the weather today. Today's
Sorry for
show
bringing it
is
up.
no. You don't have to be sorry. I mean, it's topical. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Proud sponsor of the Bat Around. Ryan, I put in the description of the show today that the Orioles hot stove is about as cold as the weather outside. There is nothing going on. The last thing they did was bring in Shane Baz and re-sign Zach Eflin. And this team, I mean, they got off to a flurry, right? No pun intended. Right when the
It
off
felt very
season,
intended.
it was not intended, but they got off to a hot start with this off season. Right off the bat, they trade to bring Andrew Kittredge back. They trade Grayson Rodriguez to bring in Taylor Ward. They sign Ryan Helsley. They sign Pete Alonso, and we're feeling great about things. Then a few weeks later, they make a trade. A couple of weeks later, they make a trade. They bring in Shane Baz. Then they re-sign Zach Eflin, who says he feels the best he's felt in his entire career. And so we're feeling great about things. Here's the thing: how it's gone quiet since then. Absolutely quiet. The Orioles have not brought in an ace. They said they wanted to bring in a top of the rotation starter. Baz has ace-like stuff. Zach Eflin has started multiple opening days in his career, but he's not that dude. When he's at his best, he's a solid number three, right?
Hmm.
And like I just said, Shane Baz has ace type stuff, but he hasn't reached that potential yet. Still young, still has 3 years of team control. He could reach that ceiling with the Orioles. We expect him to. But you don't have that proven ace. Although I feel like a lot of people are selling Kyle Bradish short and forgetting that Trevor Rogers, while he's not an ace, he can go on ace-like stretches.
Hmm.
So how much of this is on us? Because we knew they were going to bring in two starting pitchers this offseason, and that's what they've done. And how much of this is on the Orioles for saying we want to bring in a top of the rotation starter? Do they feel like they brought in that top of the rotation starter by bringing back Eflin and trading for Boz, and our expectations are just too high?
I think it's a little bit of both. I certainly think, like you said, they got off to a quick start this offseason, and things have been quiet for a little while now. And I think fans are growing impatient a little bit because we still see the need to improve in certain areas. I do also think that, they've gotten the guys that they wanted to get. Shane Baz wasn't, to my knowledge, on anybody's trade radar
Nope.
until the deal happened. So that was clearly someone that, Elias and the Orioles brass wanted to go after, and they went out and got their guy. They wanted to bring back Eflin, and they were able to accomplish that. And those two moves right there, they certainly inspire more confidence than a Charlie Morton or a Tomo Sugano or a Kyle Gibson to bring in to try to fill out the rotation. The upside with Eflin and Boz is significantly higher than any of those guys. As
Mm-hmm.
much as I love Sugano, he just he had a stretch where it looked like he was going to be solid. He had a game against the Yankees where he struck out like 8 and like doubled his season high. He had like 8 strikeouts through I think 4 career starts, and then struck out
Mm-hmm.
8 in one game against the Yankees. And I was like, ooh, if Tomo's going to be a strikeout guy, this might be fun. And then he just couldn't keep the ball in the ballpark to save his life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Boz and Eflin are guys, like I said, who are going to inspire more confidence than those over the hill types that
Sure.
the Orioles have been bringing in past off seasons. Now, you said it last week as well. They traded for Corbin Burns in February.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand pitchers and catchers report here in a couple weeks. I understand we're getting a little antsy. I understand there hasn't been any movement in a while, but it's a long off season, and there are still several guys on the free agent market, and I'm sure who could potentially be available in trades that we're not even thinking about. There are still dominoes that could fall. And I think part of the reason it's been so quiet is because other teams are filling their starting pitcher needs while the Orioles still have options out there. And they're kind of waiting for those guys to realize, okay, our market is not what we thought it was going to be. We might have to sign for a shorter term deal or a less average annual value deal or something with some more opt outs. And I think they're kind of just waiting for that to fall into place, whether it ends up being Fromber or Zach Gallen or a Justin Verlander or a trade or someone we're not even thinking of, a Zach Littell, like you brought up last week, who's not that guy, but he's half decent.
Well, you
I
look at
still think
Zach
there's a move to
Littell.
be made, and I still think there's time to make it.
You look at Zach Littell and what he does when he makes 25, 30 starts in a year. He fits solidly into the middle of just about any rotation in baseball. He is a legitimate big league pitcher. But
Yeah.
are you looking for a legitimate big league pitcher which helps your team, or are you looking for an ace for the top of your rotation? And what truly defines an ace? Are we valuing Framber Valdez, who throughout his career he has been very consistent, but does he profile as an ace, or does he profile as like a number 2 when we just think of him as an ace because he's the best of what was on the market this year? And when we talk about that, you look at what's going to be available next offseason. The top of that list, the very top of that list is Tarek Skubal, Freddie Peralta, Kevin Gossman. All 3 of them unrestricted free agents next year. And then you look at and Chris Sale, right?
Mm.
Then you look at some of the guys that are going to be that have club options that they could that have mutual options that they could exercise. Where Corbin Burns, Michael King, and then I think there was one other guy, and I can't remember his name right now. But next off season starting pitching class is way better, top to bottom, than this year's. So are the Orioles like, maybe we bring in Verlander for a year and then and see what he does. Maybe we make a trade at the deadline for one of those guys and we sign them to an extension before they hit free agency. Knowing what it's going to be next year, maybe they don't want to throw all their eggs into the basket this year because they know it's so much better next off season. And then you have to factor in, are we playing baseball next season? And I think ultimately we are playing baseball next season. I think there's too much money to be lost to just wipe out the whole season. And I don't remember a time where we lost an entire season to a strike. We lost the second half of a season and or like the last third of a season and a World Series in '94 and the first part of the season in '95. But we haven't had a strike that's completely wiped out a season, I think, ever. Um, and so you're looking at two sides that are going to need to come together to figure something out, and I think ultimately they will. I mean, it was, you know, looking very bleak prior to the 2022 season or the 2023 season, and they got it done. You know, they got a deal done. So I think that that's what's going to happen this year. So you have to have that mindset. If you're a team, you've got to prepare to play in 2027. Are the Orioles looking to spend more money on pitching next year when the talent is higher than what it is now? So let's look at the three free agents that have been linked to the Orioles: Valdez, Framber Valdez, Justin Verlander, and Zach Gallen. And we're going to look at the good and we're going to look at the bad of these. For Framber Valdez, Ryan, the good is he had a 58.3% ground ball rate last year, 61.5% for his career. And he's thrown 175 plus innings pitched 4 straight seasons. The bad, he was 2-7 with a 6.05 ERA, covering in his final 10 starts in 2025, covering 58 innings. He seemingly crossed up his catcher intentionally, and there's been rumors of being a bad clubhouse presence. He's also 32 years old and seems to want at least 5 years. Oh, and his hard hit rate, about 45%. Then you look at Justin Verlander, the good, 3.85 ERA last year, 2.99 ERA his final 15 starts. His fastball still touches the mid-90s. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer, 3 Cy Young Awards, an MVP. He has been that dude in his career. The bad, he's going to be 43 years old. His walk rate was the highest last year since 2017. His whip each of the last 2 years above 1.36, highest since 2014. You're paying for a name, essentially, at this point.
Yeah.
And then you look at Zach Gallen, and I'm going to the good, he posts up. 28 plus games started 4 straight years. 184 plus innings pitched 3 of the last 4 years. He's the youngest option of the 3 at 30 years old. He won't be 31 until August. The bad, spin rate, super low. And now I'm going to share my screen for this one because this needs to be, we're going to share it with the entire screen. I'm going to hit play on Zach Gallen's Baseball Savant page. Look at all the red starting in 2019 and watch this going through 2025. Lots of red. Lots of red. 2020. 2021. A lot more blue, but still some red in there. 2022, all red. Elite status. 2023, still elite status, but a lot more red than blue. 2024, a decent amount of red. Look at 2025. Look at all of that for 2025. Pitching run value, -5. Fastball run value, -2. Breaking ball run value, -8. Off-speed run value, 5. He's at the 86th percentile. Expected ERA, 35. Expected batting average against, 46. You look at his whiff rate, his chase rate, his average exit velo, fastball velo, walk rate, K rate, barrel rate, hard hit rate. These are not good numbers. These are numbers that you do not want to see in the blue. You want to see reds across the board for those. Zach Gallen is trending in the wrong direction, and terribly so. Thank you. My wife brought me water. And terribly so. Now, he threw 190 plus innings in 2023, fell back to 148 in 2024, and then bounced back up to 192 innings in 2025. Does he have a little bit of arm fatigue? You don't generally see pitchers dropping off so significantly in their age 29 season when they've been that good in the past. Is it more so he threw 50 more innings from one year to the next, and the arm just didn't respond the way it did? Now, he was solid. His ERA was about 3.5 his last 10 or 11 starts last year, but he also gave up 3+ runs in 5 of those starts, including 5+ runs I think 3 times in those final 10 starts. Which Zach Gallen are you getting? Does all of that blue from 2025 worry you, or do you think it's an aberration for a guy who posts up 28 plus times every year?
Yeah, it's so hard to dissect a lot of those figures, right? Because a lot of it is predictive, and I think it's more predictive than well, I think it's about equally as predictive as it is results based, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously things like whiff rate, um, walk percentage, strikeout percentage, those kind of things are, directly in the pitcher's control. The expected ERA, expected batting average, those kind of numbers are, based on league averages, right?
Sure.
So it's so hard to, you know, the way that a lot of baseball fans like to use baseball savant is when there's a lot of red, it's, oh, look how good my guy is. And when there's a lot of blue, it's, oh, it doesn't really matter as much. And I'm trying not to fall into that trap. But like
Sure.
we look at a guy like Dean Kramer, right, who's been, if nothing else, very solid for us across over the years. He is consistently blue in most categories. And some guys have a way of being able to outperform those predictive or ratio based numbers. And in the case of Zach Gallen, I mean, and look, we were talking a lot about, Orioles fans have been talking a lot about Ranger Suarez right before he signed with Boston, and how he doesn't have the velocity of an ace, but he's able to pitch like one because he knows how to find the things that need to work in order for him to be successful, and he's been able to do that very well. And so it's hard to look at, a guy like Gallen who has had such success in the past and just think that he's suddenly lost it because his figures weren't as great last year. Like you said, there certainly could be some fatigue. And I understand it's been a downward trend for a few years now, but he's the type of pitcher I think can figure out, all right, this is what I am struggling to do well. This is what I was able to do well in the past. How do I get back to that kind of form? And there have been so many pitchers over the years, and I don't mean to equate these two, but one of my favorites to look back on is Miguel Gonzalez.
Okay.
There was there was nothing about Miguel Gonzalez's
Mm.
profile that said he should have been a good major league pitcher. And yet
Mm-hmm.
he was a damn good major league pitcher
He
for us for a
was.
few years. He had a 3.23 ERA over a full season one year. I think he threw about 140, 150 innings that year. And his predictive stats were not good. He was consistently able to. John Means, another guy who never had great predictive stats, but was always able to pitch well. So it's hard to look at that and assume that it paints the full picture. Is it a little concerning in a case like Gallen? Is it something you want to look at when you're thinking about throwing a lot of money at him? Sure. Does it mean that he has fallen off and can't figure out, how to get back to some level of dominance? I don't think so. But definitely something to consider.
And I want to go, and you mentioned Dean Kramer. I want to share my screen with Dean Kramer here, because you look at him compared to Zach Gallen,
Oh, he
way
did have
more
some red
red,
last year.
way more red. Now, if you hit play on this and you go back to 2020, he was up and down in 2020. He was very bad in 2021. God, that's terrible. 2022 looks like he's getting better. 23 maybe takes a step back. Then 24 and 25, he started getting a little bit better. Started getting a little bit better. You look at these trends, like that's a lot better from 2024 to 2025 from
Yeah.
Dean Kramer.
Notably,
D-
the exit velo and barrel percentage looks like he's figured out how to limit that hard contact because he had some home
So
run issues in the past too.
if Dean Kramer can figure out April, and we talked about this last week a little bit on the show, I mean, that's a guy whose ceiling is probably a solid number three, right? Like we've seen Dean Kramer pitch to a 3.22 ERA. Let's go back to his in 2023 he was 13-5 with a 4.12 ERA, 172 and two thirds innings pitched. 2024 he got hurt. 4-10. I'm sorry, 8-10, 4.10 ERA in 24 starts and just under 130 innings. Last year, 11-10 with a 4.19 ERA, 171 and two thirds. You go back to 2022. Dean Kramer in 2022 was where is this? Okay, I'm just gonna have to look him up here. Sorry, Dean Kramer in 2022 had like a 3.20 something ERA, which to me,
Mm.
like if you're able to, and I think it was in like 22 starts, where let's see, 2022 and 21 starts, 22 games, he was 8-7 with a 3.23 ERA, 125 and a third innings pitch. That's when Dean Kramer really burst onto the scene and was like, "Hey, I'm here, I'm that dude, let's go." But even still, he had a lot of blue on that baseball savant page for 22. You look at how much he's improved from 23 to 24 and 24 to 25, and he's going to be 30 years old this year. Is Dean Kramer lined up for maybe his best season ever this year if he can stay healthy? If he figures out April, you're going to see a dude who's going to pitch to a 3.5 ERA. Now, if you're looking at that, and then you look at Kyle Bradish, who we know is Cy Young caliber, he finished fourth in Cy Young voting in 23, and then was even better to start 24. Came back last year. His final, like his 6 starts at the end of the year last year were phenomenal. You look at what you got from Trevor Rogers, even if he doubles his ERA from last year, because he's not going to have an ERA that starts with 1 again this year. You know, you get that out of him. Shane Baz can be what we think he can be. Zach Eflin bounces back to that 3.5 guy, and then you get 3.5 from Dean Kramer. You're talking about one of the best rotations in the American League as it stands right now. But that's also a lot of ifs. If these guys do this, if these guys do that, you also have to think about the fact that you have 2 guys in that rotation in Baz and Bradish, who just recently had Tommy John surgery, and Bradish is going to be on probably, I don't want to say he's going to be on an innings limit, but he's not going out there and throwing 170 innings this year. You might get 130 out of him, and you have to factor that in. Do the Orioles go with a 6-man rotation, you know, to start the season? Do you see the first half of the year a lot of piggyback with Bradish, where you're like, look, go out there, give us 5 dominant innings, then they turn to Povich or Suarez or Wells, give us 2 or 3 innings, get us into the latter half of the game, and then we're gonna leave it up to Kittredge and Helsley to get us through the rest of the game. Do you see a lot of that with Kyle Bradish? So there's a lot of question marks about this rotation. That's why people are clamoring for another starting pitcher to be added, and they're kind of losing their minds, even though we all said they need to bring in 2 starting pitchers. They've done that. But I think our expectations are, look at how much you did to start this offseason. Look at the money you spent. You were considered winners of the offseason by a lot of different pundits and prognosticators. You're not finished. There's a lot of boxes that still need to be checked. We talked about the 1 box with the starting pitching. Okay, let's talk about another box here, but first I want to remind everybody today's show brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Jamal Lewis, former University of Cincinnati football coach Rick Minter, Jesse's dad, and all the area college lacrosse coaches, you can find that and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on PressBox at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or right here on PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Orioles still have to check off the starting pitcher box. They also have to check off, in a lot of people's opinions, another bullpen arm and a legitimate center fielder / utility player. Let's talk about the bullpen first, because we were just talking about starting pitching. We want to keep on that pitching track here. You look at what they're going to have right now. You've got seemingly Suarez, Dietrich Enns, Keegan Aiken, Cade Stroud, Ryan Helsley, Andrew Kittredge, Tyler Wells, and in my opinion, Cade Povich. I think Cade Povich is going to be in your bullpen. That's 8 relievers, 5 starters currently. You cannot carry more than 13 pitchers on your roster until September call-ups. So if you sign Suarez to a minor league deal, anticipating with an invite to spring training, anticipating that he's going to be battling for a long relief spot. You know Tyler Wells is going to be part of your staff, and he's likely going to be a back-end reliever, but also you're going to build up his innings in spring training so that he can potentially bridge the gap, like we said, that piggyback with Kyle Bradish. Cade Povich has proven to be a big league pitcher. He just has been very middling, and I looked at because I looked at his numbers, because I've been screaming from a mountaintop. Cade Povich screams reliever because he gets through the order the first time like gangbusters, and then after that he's terrible. In 20 starts this past year, his ERA in the first and second inning combined is 3.15, and in every inning after that, his next best ERA is like above 4.5.
Mm.
So to me, that screams, "Hey, put me in the bullpen." He maxed out at about 94.4 miles per hour, his fastest pitch in 2025. I think if you put him in the bullpen and you let him let it eat a little bit, I think he can probably touch 96 with his fastball if he's going full bore for an inning or two.
Mm.
And with the way that his pitches move, the impact that he has the first time through the order, people are shouting, "We need a power lefty. We need a power lefty." I'm never going to call Cade Povich a power lefty, but I think that the Orioles are looking at him as being that dude already in house. I think that the bullpen is on the back burner for them. I don't think they're prioritizing it at all right now because they know that they've got Wells, Kittredge, and Helsley for the back end. They've got Suarez and Povich to bridge the gap, and then they've got Aiken, Enns, and Stroud, who all had solid seasons last year. I think they're looking at their bullpen and like, we're good right now, and look at what Texas did in 2023. Texas, in I think it was in like mid to late May, they pulled the trigger on trading with the Kansas City Royals to bring in Aroldis Chapman. I would not be surprised to see the Orioles stand pat with where their bullpen is right now and potentially see how things look the first month or two of the season, probably the first 2 months of the season, and say, hey, do we need to make a move here to shore up this bullpen? Because the other thing you have to think about is if they're going to bring in another starting pitcher, they're going to have 6 starting pitchers. Maybe they go with a 6-man rotation, or maybe it pushes somebody like Dean Kramer, which sounds insane to me because he had more innings pitched than anybody in your current rotation right now. Somebody like that gets pushed to the bullpen. When you're thinking, or maybe they push Zach Eflin to the bullpen because Zach Eflin, he's coming off that back surgery, and they want to see what I don't know. I don't know who gets pushed to the pen. I don't know if they go with a 6-man rotation. What I do know is if they have 6 starters, they have 7 relievers because you can't have more than 13 pitchers. How do you feel about the Orioles bullpen? I know that Stroud, Povich have minor league options, and I know Suarez is here on a minor league deal. How do you feel about this Orioles bullpen moving forward? Do you think that they're going to make another move? Because I don't see it right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and if you look at all those names you listed, right? Those aren't names that inspire a lot of confidence.
Right.
But if you look at the numbers, it's not half bad, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Especially if someone like Povich can step up and be, we're not asking him to be a Zach Britton, but maybe a Brian Mattis type where he's able to come in and get lefties out and give you an inning or two when needed. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
help bridge that gap. Obviously, you need Tyler Wells to be able to stay healthy because he's another guy I really think can thrive in a bullpen role. But, Dietrich Enns, Cage Stroud, Albert Suarez, even Keegan Aiken, I know he's had some good years. Those aren't names that you look at and say, oh, this is going to be a dominant bullpen. But if you dig a little deeper and look past the name, you're kind of in a position where you can afford to, like you said, Paul, give it a month or two. It's pretty easy to trade for relief pitching. I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean in the sense that you don't have to give up much because a lot of times the market dictates that, but there are always a lot of relief pitchers available mid to halfway through the season as you come up on the trade deadline. So bullpen is a place where it's a lot easier to make a bullpen move in the middle of the season than it is to go out and get your first baseman, right? And that's what
Right.
the Orioles did in signing Pete Alonso. That's not a move that happens very often in the middle of the year. Um,
Right.
Bullpen is a spot where you've got a couple guys with options, you've got a couple guys who have shown some serious potential, and then you've got a couple proven veterans in the back end with Kittredge and oh gosh, Ryan Helsley. We have the same name. Um, so yeah, look, I'm content, I suppose. Look, you can never have too much pitching. And I
Right.
said this last year. If you have 6 starters, if you have 7 starters, even if you're only going to go with a 5-man rotation, you get the bodies and then you figure it out. I said it last week. We went into 2024 expecting Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, John Means, and Dean Kramer / Tyler Wells as we went into spring training, and then injuries happened, and we went into opening day with half of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can never stockpile enough arms. And look, there's talk about, are you gonna go get a Fromber, or are you gonna go get a Gallon and or a Verlander? And look, you figure it out. If Kramer has to be a bullpen guy, he has to be a bullpen guy. If Eflin has to be a bullpen guy, Eflin has to be a bullpen guy. You take your role in the team, and you got to be able to take it in stride. And so I say, I feel like I'm not making a legitimate point here, but what I'm trying to say is I'm fine with it as it stands.
No, you.
I'm fine with it as it stands, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to bringing in another arm or two. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, no. If you felt like I was being non-reactive, your screen was freezing up a little bit on me, and so
Ooh.
I was playing catch up. But no, you're absolutely right. Relief pitching is a lot easier to acquire in season than just about anything else that you're looking to acquire to make your team better. These guys were that are in this bullpen as it stands, sneaky good. People don't realize, and it made me think of the 2012 Baltimore Orioles. They were coming off a season where they went 69 and 93, right? They weren't expected to win 93 games that year. The starting rotation was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, it took great second halves from Miguel Gonzalez and Chris Tillman to really shore up that rotation. But they were really good because of the bullpen. And you look at the bullpen outside of Jim Johnson, none of the guys that were in that bullpen had great seasons were household names. Some of them had a modicum of success in the past, but nothing that anybody was hanging their hat on. We had never heard of them. You look at I love how the two lowest ERAs are Dylan Bundy in a third of an inning pitched 0, and Chris Davis in 2/3 of an innings pitched with a win and 0. But then you look at Steve Johnson, only 12 games, but a 2.11 ERA. People didn't know who Steve Johnson was outside of Baltimore. Darren O'Day, 228 in 69 games. Troy Patton, 243 in 54 games. Pedro Strop, 244 in 70 games. Jim Johnson, 249 in 71 games and 51 saves. Luis Ayala, 264 in 66 games. Matt Lindstrom, 272 in 34 games. Nobody knew who these guys were. Can you tell me that prior to 2012 you knew outside of Jim Johnson, maybe Steve Johnson, because we know of his dad Dave Johnson? Can you tell me that you knew who Darren O'Day and Troy Patton and Pedro Strop and Louis, and we knew about Troy Patton because he was a up and coming prospect, but Darren O'Day, Troy Patton, Pedro Strop, Luis Ayala, Matt Lindstrom. Did you know who these guys were? The most we knew about Matt Lindstrom is that he came over with Jason Hamill in a trade with the Rockies that sent our best starting pitcher in that offseason, Jeremy Guthrie, out of town. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew who those guys were, and the Orioles had one of the best bullpens in baseball. You know?
I think O'Day's the only one you can say he was kind of established already to, a smaller extent. But yeah, Lindstrom, Patton, even like Luis Ayala was kind of a veteran at that point, but he was never exceptionally good. And then he had an excellent, he was great. Look, relief pitching is so volatile. You never really know what you were going to get. And God, 2012 was such a fun season. But man, even last year, we expected Yennier Cano to be one of the most dominant relievers in baseball again. And he got optioned in July.
Twice.
Yeah, because he was so bad. So you never know what you're gonna get, and that's why I say you can never have too much. Maybe Kittredge has lost it. Maybe Helsley is more Mets Helsley than Cardinals Helsley, and then you got to come up with a solution back there. So get as many arms as you can, and figure out a way to utilize them. Wouldn't you rather have an unhappy long reliever than a bad rotation because a couple guys got hurt? I would.
Yeah, and we're also, not talking about Yennier Cano. He's back on a minor league deal. Is this a guy who they're going to let him figure it out at AAA, and maybe he gets off to a strong start and he does come up and help the Orioles? Like that dude's in there somewhere, right? And then you look at Brandon Young. We're not talking about him. We're not talking about Trey Gibson, who is likely to make his debut this year, whether it's in the rotation or probably in the bullpen. There's a lot of different options. I'm not saying that the Orioles bullpen is elite right now, but I just don't think it's a priority for the team right now because I think they do want to bring in one more starting pitcher. I think they're still trying to figure out what they want to do in center field, which is the next box that needs to be checked. Because do you really want Colton Cowser, starting in center field for you? You'll accept it.
My heart says yes.
But well, and that's not me trying to hate on Colton Cowser. It's that
Right.
he's an incredible left fielder. He should be playing left field for you. But Taylor Ward plays left field, and you're not DHing Taylor Ward every day because you've got, again, we talked about last week, this roster doesn't make freaking sense right now. It just doesn't. You have like 4 dudes that can hit 30 home runs, and they all play the same position, essentially. It's DH or bust, right? So, there's boxes that still need to be checked, and we're less than 2 weeks from spring training. And I just don't think that the Orioles are looking at their bullpen and saying, this is a top priority right now. It's a priority, but it's not a priority above figuring out who our utility infielder is, who our everyday center fielder is, who our fourth outfielder is. Is Leodys Taveras really going to be, are you really banking on this dude being your fourth outfielder? He's awful. He's awful.
If he's on the roster, it's going to be as a defensive replacement, I think. You've got Taylor Ward, you've got Colton Cowser, you've got Dylan Beavers, and you've got Tyler O'Neill. So he's not going to be starting over any of those guys.
No.
God, he better not be. Something has gone terribly wrong if that's the case. And then, is Jeremiah Jackson going to be in the picture? We talked about him a little bit last week as a utility guy, but he can't play center. And honestly, I don't think he can play right, which is where he played a good chunk of last season. So he's probably a backup infielder. And he
really only plays third base.
Yeah. And then you've got Mayo and you've got Mountcastle, who are both first basemen, but you just went out and signed Pete Alonso. So are both of those guys on your bench with Samuel Basayo, who also needs to be playing a little bit of first so that Adley can stay behind the plate, but then you want Basayo getting reps behind the plate? It makes no sense, Paul.
It makes absolutely no sense. And with Mayo, the argument can be made he needs to be a corner outfielder with that 70-grade arm because he's not playing first base here for the next 5 years. Right? So, again, everybody's like, oh, the Orioles aren't going to do anything else. They have to. They can't just sit here and go into spring training and the regular season with the roster as currently constructed because you're going to have dudes like Ryan Mountcastle and Kobe Mayo and Tyler O'Neill sitting on the bench every day. Every day. You look at now, look, what's one of the things that has made the Dodgers so great outside of spending $200 million more than every other team is the fact that, you look back at the Dodgers in, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, they legitimately had a solid everyday player on their bench every single night because they were just so deep. Max Muncy was sitting on their bench 3 nights a week. So you can make the argument that having guys like Kobe Mayo to deploy in a late game pinch hitting situation, maybe start him at first base twice a week and get Pete Alonso's legs under him. Same thing with a Tyler O'Neill and you can make the legitimate argument, but again, you're gonna have a catcher. God, they're gonna play both their catchers every damn day, and that doesn't make sense to me either. There is my brain twists into a pretzel thinking about how the Orioles are going to deploy this roster. So I'm going to scream it one final time. The roster doesn't make sense. They have to make a trade. They absolutely have to. They can't go into the year with this roster. There is no chance of it. There's no way they can do it. There's no way. It is impossible to have this roster as it currently stands and make any sense of it you're going to have Jordan Westbrook randomly playing center field for you one day, and like Kobe Mayo in left field when Taylor Ward like pops a hammy or something like this. It doesn't make any effing sense. So like, I gotta post this on Twitter at some point or X. I can't call it X. It's Twitter.
I
But
can't. I haven't been able to make that transition. And for those listening, to be clear, you're not saying that the roster is bad. You're just saying that it's dumb.
yeah,
Like
like
it's the most talented roster we've gone into a season with in quite some time.
absolutely,
But it makes no sense.
it doesn't make any sense. You put together, and I hate to say it because they're better than this because they have more talent, but you essentially put together a beer league softball team, and you're like, all right, we've got 4 dudes that are going to hit 30 home runs and a guy who might hit 50, and all of you just find a spot, go out there. Pete, you want to play shortstop today? Go for it. Gunner, you want to go to center field? Tyler O'Neill, you want to get behind the plate? Everybody just find a spot. As long as you can hit 280 with 35 plus home runs, we'll find a spot for you. That's essentially what they're saying. So if anybody is out there saying the Orioles are done, look at the roster. They can't be. They can't be. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Whew.
Deep breaths.
Today's show is brought to you by Pressbox's annual Best of issue, which is available for just a couple more weeks, celebrating the top people, performances, and moments of the year in Baltimore sports, including our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Raven safety Kyle Hamilton. You can find the new issue for free all throughout the region, including now at all Baltimore area High's dairy stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, Ryan, I think that's the show. You anything to add? No, I'm just kidding. It just, we're done. We're done with that. We're done with that. Anything you want to soft toss about? I saw you post something that I thought was interesting yesterday, and now I can't remember what the hell it was.
Oh, that's what I was going to bring up for soft toss. So I'm glad you mentioned it. So I had this thought. I'm just sitting on the couch thinking about Tyler O'Neill's opening day home run streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how weird it is, but also kind of cool. 6 straight opening days, Tyler O'Neill has hit a home run. Now, important to remember in this situation that the day after opening day is a day off. So I had this thought because, O'Neill has this home run streak, but he also was not very good last year. He struggles to stay healthy historically. Over or under 1.5 calendar days in 2026, will Tyler O'Neill have more home runs than Pete Alonso? I think it's a fun question. And I was hesitant to post it, and then I saw how close the voting was between over and under, and I was like, maybe that was a damn good question. It made me feel a little validated.
So who do the Orioles open this season against? Is it Minnesota?
Minnesota at home.
Minnesota at home, so it's probably against Joe Ryan, right? So let's
Probably.
Because I have a bold prediction, but I want to I'm kind of hedging my bet by looking this stuff up real quick. So Joe Ryan, right-handed pitcher, 13 wins in the 3.42 ERA in 31 games, 30 starts last year. The Orioles would be very wise to make a trade for Joe Ryan, but assuming that they don't, and he's starting in Camden Yards on opening day against the Orioles, I'm making a bold prediction here. One, Tyler O'Neill's opening day home run streak comes to an end. 2, Pete Alonso hits 2 home runs on opening day. And so, I'm going with the under. I don't think there's a day this year that Tyler O'Neill has more home runs than Pete Alonso, because I think Pete Alonso hits 2 the first game of the year, and I think Tyler O'Neill, if he even plays, and I don't know that he's going to play. The only reason that Tyler O'Neill should play on opening day against a right-handed pitcher is because of the home run streak. That's legitimately the only reason, because ideally you have Dylan Beavers playing against a righty. You have Dylan Beavers playing in right field. You have Basayo and Rutschman catching and DHing. Taylor Ward in left. Cowser's in center field. There's really not a spot for Tyler O'Neill to play. But Tyler O'Neill is going to play because he has that home run streak. So he's going to start in right field, and Dylan Beavers is going to be on the bench on opening. That's what's going to happen.
Sucks.
But that's what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but Oh, now that I say that, watch O'Neill hit like 2 home runs himself on opening. And that's the thing. If the Orioles find a way, and this is assuming O'Neill's here, because I'm not ruling out that they're going to eat a chunk of his salary to get him out of here. If Tyler O'Neill is here on opening day, and the Orioles find a way to keep him off his feet more often than not when he's in the lineup, that's another guy who's going to hit 30-plus home runs.
Yeah.
You know? So, the roster doesn't make sense, folks. But anyway. I'm soft toss with Ryan Blake. I'm going under 1.5 days that O'Neill has more home runs than Pete Alonso, because I don't think there's a point this year that he does.
I'm with you. I'm also on the under. I don't think that if O'Neill does find his way into the opening day lineup, 6 in a row is a lot of opening days in a row. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
7 would be like, what is happening? What is going on? And even still, there's no guarantee that if O'Neill homers, Alonso doesn't homer as well.
Alonso's going deep twice on opening day.
There you have it.
You look at historically what Pete Alonso has done in his career, and you tell me he's not hitting 2 home runs on opening day. That dude just, like, he was born to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just shows up. If you look at Pete Alonso, it's almost like he lives for that moment, and he's like, "Hey guys, I want to prove my worth. Here's a bomb in the first inning, 2-0 Orioles. Here's a bomb in the 7th inning to give the Orioles a 5-4 lead." Like, he's going deep twice on opening day. It's gonna happen. I'm putting it down in stone. He's hitting 2 home runs on opening day.
And I hope he does, because there's. And it's going to take me a little bit still to get over this. The home run derby with Trey Mancini.
Yeah.
Alonso rubbed me the wrong way. I know he was just having fun. But I was like, dude, everyone wants to see Trey win this thing. You just won it last year. Let the guy have his moment. So he's got to do some earning of forgiveness on opening day, and 2 bombs is a good way to do it.
Yeah, I think that people, you and I are going to be there on opening day. We don't miss opening day, right? Like, can you imagine that stadium if he homers on opening day? Like, if he homers in his first at bat, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to absolutely lose it. I'm going to take my shirt off and run around whatever section I'm in if he homers.
Especially if it's
the
bottom of the first with nobody out and Gunner's on base.
Oh my God!
Gunner leading off and Alonso hitting second.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Look, I don't know why I'm making this face, but can you imagine the season starting with back-to-back home runs from Gunner and Alonso?
Dude, I look. Opening day has treated the Orioles very well historically, especially this century.
I think they're one of the best teams all time on opening day. Even when they've been terrible, they somehow win on opening day.
I think they've scored double-digit runs on opening day each of the last 2, maybe even 3 seasons. At least the home opener.
No, they won like 8-3 last year.
On 8-3. Yeah,
but they beat Toronto. They beat Toronto 12-2 in the season opener last year, and they hit 6 home runs. Adley hit 2 home runs on opening day. Cedric Mullins hit 2 home runs on opening day, and we're sitting there and we're like I was giddy. I was like, this offense is gonna be so good. And then, like, I don't think people get so mad at me because they think I'm so negative. I feel like I'm very realistic about the team. And they think I'm so negative. When I'm positive, bad crap happens to this team. Like, it is documented. Ryan, you sat here on this show with me 2 years ago in the middle of June when I said when I proclaimed the Orioles as the best team in baseball, and then they were 7 games under 500 from that point on. Like, you don't want me to just be rah-rah about this team.
Yeah.
Even though, and it's so funny, my best friend Adam, my best friend of 27 years since we were 14 years old, he was like, I don't want to hear your crap about how good the Orioles are. I'm like, dude, everybody thinks I'm negative about the Orioles. He's like, I truly know you, and I know how positive you are about this team. So, like, I guess because I only post when like I'm upset about something and I'm using it to like the. I'm like actually overly positive about this team. I'm so excited for this year. I'm so excited for what's going to happen with this offense, for Pete Alonso, for Gunnar to just go bananas and hit like 319 with 45 home runs. Like Gunnar's going to have he's going to put up a 10 more season this year. I'm telling you, if Gunnar is healthy, that Schultzman is behind him, Gunner's going to put up a 10 more season this year. And I am here for it. And then the Orioles better give him 12 years, $850 million. I don't care. Give the dude whatever the hell he wants. You cannot let him leave like you let Manny leave. Or you
Yeah,
traded Manny. But, like, Gunner's
it's not
got
our
to be an
money.
Oriole. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, kind of is. But, like,
Well, yeah. Look,
but,
you signed Gunnar Henderson to a lifetime contract extension. I'll pay double for my season tickets, bro. I don't care. Let's
yeah,
do it.
for sure. If you show that commitment to winning, you make Gunner a 12-year, 720 to $840 million offer. I mean, that's stupid money.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like you're talking 60, $70 million a year. But you
Yeah.
make, you're giving Kyle Tucker's making 60 million. Otani's making 70 million. What's his name? Juan Soto. How much is he making? Like 50 some odd million, something like
Some
that.
unfathomable number.
You give Gunnar Henderson 12 years, 600 million. You're paying that dude $50 million a year. And you think that fans aren't gonna make up for that and then some with the amount of tickets that they buy? Like,
Here's the thing. And I think a part of the reason why Orioles fans especially want to see this kind of commitment, right? And I understand that times have changed in a lot of different ways, financially, um, in regards to loyalty, things like that. Who are the two most beloved players in Orioles history? Probably. You can make
Cal,
arguments for others.
Cal
Brooks
Brooks.
Robinson and Cal Ripken Jr.
Mm-hmm.
They were both homegrown players who spent their entire careers in Baltimore. And then you draft Manny Machado. And Manny Machado is far and away the most talented player the Orioles have had since Cal Ripken Jr. retired.
He's probably the most talented player they've ever had.
Yeah, you can make that argument. And what happens? They approach him in like maybe 2014 or 2015, say, hey, we want to sign you long term. And he and Boris say, nah, not right now. And then they never approached him about it
Well,
again.
that's not even what happened. They approached him. Ken Rosenthal wrote an article about this. They approached him. It was early in his career, so I think it was more like 2013, 2014. And they offered him. I think they offered him 8 years, 72 million. If I'm remembering the article correctly, and he wanted something like 8 years, 80 million. And the Orioles balked over that extra $1 million a year, and then they never approached him again about a contract.
I
Never
missed that
approached him.
article.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna see if I can find it.
I had heard, I think, and maybe this is just my memory playing tricks on me because this was almost 8 years ago now. But I remember hearing something along the lines of before they traded him at the deadline to the Dodgers, they hadn't spoken to him in 3+ years about an extension. That's the
Correct.
way
They
my
hadn't spoken to him
brain
since
remembers it.
2015. I remember that too.
But the point I'm trying to make is you had insane talent in Brooks Robinson. He was an Oriole his whole career. You had insane talent in Cal Ripken Jr. He was an Oriole his whole career. You had insane talent in Manny Machado. And you backed yourselves into a corner where you had to trade him for a bag of balls at the deadline. You can't let that happen with Gunnar Henderson as well. You can't.
Oh,
And
absolutely not.
I know that Boris is going to make Gunnar a free agent. I know that that's going to be the case. But if you are the Baltimore Orioles, you have to say whatever your best offer out there is going to be, we are going to beat it, and you are going to be here for your life.
Yeah.
And that, I think, the legacy with Brooks and the legacy with Cal and the missed opportunity for Manny Machado, who is going to be a Hall of Famer, that is why the Orioles want to see this commitment to their young talent. And Gunnar Henderson is far and away at the top of that list. So they got to make it happen. They have to find a way.
You cannot have a talent like Manny Machado and then a talent like Gunnar Henderson in your organization and in the span of 10 years, let both of them walk out the door.
Yeah.
You can't let that happen. You absolutely cannot let it happen. And I will tell you, I can't find this article. I'll find it later and send it to you. I can't find it right now, but I know he, because I read it multiple times. I know he wrote it. That the Orioles balked over the difference of like $1 million a year. But for my money, the biggest mistake this franchise has ever made in the history of the franchise, and I am including trading Steve Finley, Kurt Schilling, and Pete Harnisch for Glenn Davis. The biggest mistake this franchise has ever made was not signing Manny Machado long term for whatever he wanted and building your ball club around him. We did not need to go through that rebuild that we went through. We did because of what happened. We had to go through it because of what happened. But they didn't need to. They decided they wanted to pay Chris Davis, which everybody shut the F up if you weren't on board with signing Chris Davis, because yes, the hell you were. There is a small portion of the fan base that was not on board with it, but the majority of us at the time, Chris Davis was coming off 2 out of the last 3 years. He led the majors in home runs. You had to sign Chris Davis. You didn't need to bid against yourselves, but you had to sign Chris Davis. So, like, anybody that says they shouldn't have signed Chris Davis, shut the hell up, because you wanted them to. You didn't know he was going to become the worst hitter in the worst hitter in the history of the league. But after that, you didn't know that. Okay.
No. And I gotta say about Davis, just real quick, on the Adam Jones night they had. I'm not good with dates, but the Adam Jones night they had when
I was
Davis
at that
was there and got a standing ovation, that made my heart so happy.
Oh my gosh, it was the best part. I mean, they lost that game 8-1. I was at that game. I remember they lost the game 8-1. It was the highlight of the night. It was the absolute highlight of the night.
I was out on the flag court during those introductions, and when they introduced Davis and the crowd erupted in a good way, I almost cried, dude. It was awesome. And you're absolutely right. The Orioles needed to prioritize Chris Davis. Now, did they have to float an offer out there, and then when he was dragging his feet on signing, they decided they were going to, like you said, outbid themselves? That's what drove me crazy. Yeah. There wasn't competition. I think maybe the Cardinals were in the mix, but they weren't going to match the Orioles' original offer.
No.
But anyway, so, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. I just wanted to say I love Chris Davis. That's all.
I love Chris Davis, too. Yes, it sucked what happened to him from basically the second half of 2016 on. Like, that sucked, okay? But I loved Chris Davis, and his 2012, he was so sneaky good. Like, people don't talk about 2012 because of what he did in 2013, but Davis hit like 286 with 33 home runs in 2012. Yeah. And then he comes out, and 2013 was so fun with him. Like, the season itself sucked because they took the high of 2012 and then missed the playoffs in 2013. But what Chris Davis did, that opening day grand slam that he hit, like, it was so much fun watching the season that he put on. And then the 2015 season, it sucks that his 2 best years in Baltimore were also like the 2 years that the Orioles missed the playoffs during that 5-year stretch.
Yeah, that is weird.
But
that opening day grand slam too was coming off the heels of the Orioles had opened the season on the road, and Davis had homered in all 3 road games to start the year, and then comes home, hits a grand slam on opening day. 4 games, 4 homers, and you thought the vibes were immaculate at that point.
Oh my gosh!
And then he goes on to hit 53, and the Orioles somehow missed the playoffs despite that. Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was a little backwards how Davis' stats lined up with the Orioles' success.
Yeah, and Manny hit 52 doubles that year.
Yeah,
Manny hit 52 doubles that year, but the rest of the team just was like, we're good. No, what's his name? Adam Jones hit like 32 home runs. I don't know how they missed the playoffs that year. I don't know how, but they did. They fell apart down the stretch. No way. But you look at what this team did and the missteps that they made from 2015 on. Like, they went into 2015 and they originally had a 4-year offer for Nick Markakis, and then they pulled that offer and went to 3 years because they were scared about his neck. All he did was go and play in 150 plus games for like 6 straight seasons with the Braves, right? They never replaced him in right field. They never until Santander got. That's not true.
Breaking news?
That's not true. There is no way. There is no way that Framber Valdez signed 2 years, $40 million.
What? Wait, hang on.
There's no way that A. There's no way that he took that deal. And B. There's no way it happened. He's making this.
Where are you seeing this?
This isn't true. For those of you that are watching and you don't know what we're talking about, somebody just put this in our chat. Breaking news: Orioles signed Valdez 2 years, $40 million per. My inside sources.
Oh, it was a chat.
Physical.
I thought it was a tweet.
No, I have inside sources. 2 years. You know what? If that's true, 2 years, $40 million per. If that's true, you know what? I'm gonna after the show, I'm gonna reach out to my source and see if they've heard anything about this. I have no text messages. I'm seeing nothing on Twitter. I'm searching Valdez right now.
There's no shot.
You're a son of a bitch. My mommy's boyfriend is a janitor at Camden Yards. This is happening. Can I block somebody from a show? Like, is there a way? I blocked him. I just blocked this user. There's no... Get effed. What a jackass. What a jackass. I've never seen this dude before. I've never seen this person in our comments as a viewer on the show. Just blocked him from viewing the show. Because there's just no way that... Like, and obviously that last comment, my mommy's boyfriend is a janitor at Camden Yards. This is happening. Screw you, dude. We were in the middle of making an awesome point. It was an awesome point. I know it was. Get effed. Anyway, so, God, what a jerk.
What even was I don't remember the point anymore.
The point was the Orioles, they misstepped because they balked on Nick Markakis. They balked on Nelson Cruz. They traded away Manny Machado. You sign Nick Markakis. You sign Nelson Cruz. You extend Manny Machado. You don't need to rebuild. You look at what all of those guys did after they left. You look at what all those guys did after they left. You did not need to rebuild if you don't balk. And that's straight up on ownership. That's straight up on ownership. Which is why this new ownership, outside of getting another starting pitcher for this season, their next top priority should be ensuring that Gunnar Henderson is essentially an Oriole for life.
Yeah.
He's essentially an Oriole for life. That is the next top priority for this franchise, is making sure that Gunnar Henderson never plays for another team until it's to the point where he's at that point in his career where he's like 37, 38 years old and just can't do what he could do before.
Yeah.
You know? But Gunnar Henderson should be an Oriole into his mid-30s.
Yeah.
He
as long as that
be.
final season isn't with the Yankees like it was with Brian Roberts. That would break my heart.
Yeah, that sucked. That sucked. Brian Roberts playing for the Yankees sucked. I understood it at the time. It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And of course he homered in his first game back at Camden Yards. Of course he did.
Mike Mussina playing for the Yankees should have never happened. That one, I will never forget how I felt the day that he signed with the New York Yankees. He's the only Yankee I've ever rooted for. He is the only Yankee I've ever, except for when he played the Orioles. There was one game he pitched against the Orioles where he gave up like 6 runs in the first inning, and I was like loving it. But when he won 20 games in his final season, when he made the Hall of Fame, like, that's the only Yankee I have ever rooted for in my entire life, because he is my favorite pitcher. Mike Mussina is my favorite pitcher of all time. He is my favorite pitcher of all time, and he should have never played anywhere but Baltimore. Glad he got to play in some World Series. Glad he never won a World Series. Glad he won 20 games. Glad that they pancaked their last 2 World Series championships around his time in New York, which is kind of awesome. but like he should have never pitched for anybody but the Baltimore Orioles. That Manny Machado being traded, like the rebuild never needed to happen. It never needed to happen. Unless you look at it from the standpoint of, well, they wouldn't have Gunnar, they wouldn't have Jackson, they wouldn't have Westberg, they wouldn't have Adley, if not for the rebuild, they wouldn't have Basayo because they probably wouldn't have a lot of the guys that aren't here anymore as far as front office people, maybe they would still be here. Michael Eyes probably wouldn't be here, and they probably wouldn't have as much of an impact or footprint in the international market. But not retaining Markakis, Cruz, and Machado, huge misstep. Rebuild never needed to happen. Today's show has been brought to you by Live Casino. Sports and social at Live Casino and Hotel is the best place to watch the big game next Sunday. Watch New England and Seattle battle it out on the 100-foot media wall. Enjoy delicious game day food packages, and there will be giveaways. There will be giveaways and interactive activities throughout the night, all at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel. Today's show has also been brought to you by County Sports Zone. We are in the throes of winter sports season at the high school level. All year long, you can find score schedules and updates for every sport and every school all throughout the state at countysports.zone. Countysports.zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Ryan, you were making some faces that makes me think like you have something to say, or maybe I'm just misreading things.
I was just going to say this show is also brought to you by that guy's mommy's boyfriend.
But, yeah, who's a janitor at Camden Yards. God, I hate people like that. You're an ass. Like, you're an absolute ass.
I saw you, like, react to something, and I thought you, like, had got a tweet notification or, an alert. I didn't know it was a YouTube comment.
It was a comment. I was like, there's no way. Well, my reaction was, there's no way, because at first I read it as 2 years, 40 million. Then I saw it said 2 years, 40 million per, and I'm like, my reaction is, one, I don't believe it. Two, what if this is true and it's happening in the middle of the show? Three, there's no way we'd be lucky enough for that to happen in the middle of our show. Everything happens like 3 days before our show. So like, what a jerk. What a jerk. Anyway.
So I'm sorry to bring it back up.
No, that's all right. That's all right. And those are like the only comments on the show right now. I mean, no, we have a lot of comments on the show right now. Little former Orioles news, according to John Heyman. Well, when I put this in there, he hadn't decided yet. Austin Hayes signed with the Chicago White Sox. Hayes is 30 years old this season. He hit 15 home runs in 103 games last year, so he was on pace for like his best year ever offensively. He had he has a career OPS of 748. But he's missed 31 games or more in 3 of the last 5 years, 59 plus the last 2 seasons. You talk about somebody who I would have loved to see in Baltimore as a fourth outfielder. Austin Hayes as a fourth outfielder makes so much sense for the Orioles because he can play all 3 outfield positions. He's familiar with the terrain out there. He's got a great arm. He has pop that he can provide off the bench. The problem is, when Austin Hayes is healthy, he's an everyday player, and they don't have everyday at-bats for Austin Hayes in Baltimore. Fourth outfielder at-bats? Absolutely. And he would be a stellar fourth outfielder, and it's probably a way to keep him healthy for a full season. He can find 300 at-bats through a full season as a fourth outfielder. Can't find 600 at-bats in Baltimore. And going to the White Sox, the White Sox have made some sneaky good moves.
They have.
I like the signing for them and for Austin because he's going to get a chance to play there every day, and they get a veteran who's a gamer. It just sucks because you know that he's not playing 150 games. You know if he gives you 120, 130, you should consider yourself lucky, But Austin Hayes signs with the Chicago White Sox, not sure of what the parameters are. And then also Trey Mancini signed a minor league deal with an invite to spring training with the Angels. We all know that the new hitting coach out there for the LA Angels is Brady Anderson. A lot of players credit Brady Anderson for turning their careers around. Trey Mancini is chief among them. I'm very interested to see what Trey Mancini can do because he had an over 800 OPS in the minors last year. He had a really good minor league season.
It was like 880 something.
Yeah, he had a really good minor league season last year, and then I think I think it was with the Diamondbacks, and
Hmm.
he was never gonna play over Josh Naylor in Arizona, and then they traded him, and you thought he might get, but he had already opted out, and then I don't know if he played again after that
I
last
don't think he
year.
did. I don't think he
Yeah,
did.
because I think that he thought I just had a great run in AAA. Some team's gonna pick me up, and I don't think a team picked him up last year. So he signs on with the Angels. I'm very interested to see what he can do, and I'm very interested to see what Brady Anderson can do as the hitting coach. Like, you talk about a name you never expected to hear as a new hitting coach anywhere. Tell me you ever thought of Brady Anderson as being a hitting coach anywhere, because he's when has he ever done it? Like,
Right.
when has he ever done it? When has he have you ever heard his name as a candidate to be a coach anywhere? And now he's suddenly the hitting coach for the LA Angels. I was shocked about it, but I want to know. Well,
I
I
will
want to know with
say
the Angels.
I enjoyed the jokes about like get Mike Trout on some steroids and let him get back to his his old self. I kind of love that, like those kind of jokes. But yeah, I mean, I wish him luck. I wish him well out there. I hope that he's able
Yeah,
to help Mancini. Um, yeah, not a candidate you would have expected, especially considering like his weird nondescript role that he had with the Orioles for however many years, where he was just kind
like
of
assistant to the GM and like
he was like meddling a
pulling
little bit
strings.
everywhere. It was like it was weird, but he was like shagging balls during batting practice and then like going in and I I don't know. It was weird. Um, I don't know. Maybe having a more defined role would be good for him. Who knows?
Do you think? Do you think that Trey Mancini, like, they have Nola Shanuel playing first base, right? Like, and then like you expect that Mike Trout is gonna probably DH a good bit, right? So, and they have Jorge Soler as a designated hitter also. It's kind of surprised. Maybe that was the only deal that Mancini had out there for him.
Maybe.
Apparently, he had multiple offers, but like, why would you pick the Angels? I guess because Brady's there. Maybe that's the selling point, and maybe you think that you can play some outfield for them.
Hmm.
I don't know, but like, you're not playing over Joe Adele. You're not playing center field. You're not playing over Josh Lowe. You're not playing over Mike Trout. You're not playing over Jorge Soler. And Nolan Samuel is only 3 years into his big league career, and he's a former first round pick. So I don't know. Maybe
Do you know any of the other teams that were potentially in on Mancini or any of the other offers you might have had?
I have no idea.
Because like obviously the Brady connection makes sense, but like you look at I understand Sean Wells a career a former first round pick and he didn't really spend a lot of time in the minors there, so he's the guy they want.
Mm-hmm.
His numbers don't inspire a ton of like he's a good on base guy, but he doesn't have a lot of
Right.
power. He's not particularly fast. Like I think when you look at first base openings around the league, there aren't many of them. But when you look at players that could pretty conceivably have playing time taken from them if they don't perform well, I feel like Shonwell's got to be near the top of that list. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision for Trey, especially with that Brady Anderson connection, because I do think like if Shonwell doesn't take a step forward, like if your first baseman is hitting 12 to 15 home runs a year,
Yeah.
that's probably not your big league first baseman. And there's
Right.
only so many years you can tolerate because this is year four for Shonwell.
Yeah. And they didn't they do the same thing with him that they did with Zach Neto, whatever, however you pronounce his name, where they drafted him and then they called him up pretty early.
They called him up real quick. They did the same with Reed Detmers. He was pitching out of the bullpen. They did it with Neto. I feel like there was one other guy who basically went
They did it with a
straight to.
pitcher, didn't they? Do that? Reed Detmers, that's who it was,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Hmm.
I wanna look at what Mancini last year in 60. I think it said 62 games. 80. He hit 308 with an 895 OPS, 16 home runs, and 62 RBI. for AAA Reno before opting out on July. That's the numbers he put up through July 1st.
That
Like
that's yeah.
that's crazy numbers.
And he had
That
a
is
good spring too.
absolutely yeah. So then like what did he do? He played for in Louisville. In Louisville he hit 316 with 2 home runs in 5 games. He played 79 games with the Cubs in 2023, hit 234 with 4 home runs. And he didn't play anywhere in 2024. And I mean what he did, it was 74 games, 16 home runs, 16 doubles, 62 RBI with an 895 OPS in six and he had a 6.2 WAR. Uh that's not true. Is it?
I was gonna say 6.2. That's very
No,
high.
that's not right. I saw all these numbers, and it's where WAR usually is for big league players. It's his age differential. I don't know what the hell that
What?
means. Yeah, it says age differential. Difference in the player's age to that of the weighted average of all players in the league. I guess for the minor leagues, that's how they figure out WAR.
Is that a
So
baseball
6 point.
reference?
Yeah, it's right next. It's right between age and team. Um, but yeah, I hope that Trey just steals that dude's job and goes out and hits 270 with 25 home runs for the Angels. Like that would be my favorite part of the entire season. Um, but Ryan, I know you got to get out of here right at 11:30. But we're not even gonna make it to 11:30 with the show today. But Daniel Pitts says I could honestly see Valdez accepting a 2-year, $80 million with an opt out after year one. It sounds like that's the kind of contract he's going to get. I think it's going to be more like 3 years, 100 to 120 million, with opt outs after each of the after years 1 and 2. I think that's a contract that Valdez is going to end up getting. But man, I don't know. That threw a wrench in the spokes of the show. I was making a great point about Manny Machado and Nelson Cruz and Nick Markakis. Oh, did you see that? And this happened even before last week's show. But did you see that Dan Conlon was the only person that voted for Nick Markakis for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and I love that. His
I,
article explaining why he did it was perfect.
oh, it
It
was.
was such
I love Dan. I randomly bought the futon that's behind me in my office from Dan's sister off of Facebook Marketplace, and I only learned it as I was picking up the futon. And she was like, "Yeah, my brother covers the Orioles." I was like, "Oh, who's your brother?" She goes, "Dan Conley." I was like, "Dan's been on my show like 15 times. I love Dan."
yeah.
Um, yeah, but no, like that article was so well written, and it was a perfect tribute to Nick Markakis. Nick Markakis is one of my all time favorite Orioles, and the fact that he again didn't finish his career in Baltimore has always been like I hated that he ended up finishing his career with the Braves. And look, if Markakis had played on better teams with the Orioles, he would have made like 5 All-Star teams with
hmm
Baltimore. He was so good. There was a year he led the American League in WAR.
Yeah.
He led the American League in WAR. Like
And he
his
finished like 30th in MVP voting that year. It was something absurd.
yeah, like I don't think it was third in MVP voting.
No, 30th.
Oh, 30th. I was like third. Jeez. Like he was so good, and you look at what those Orioles teams were missing after he left. And yeah, I remember thinking like, man, what happened to Markakis' power? This dude should be hitting 300 with 25 home runs every year, but he was hitting like 275 to 300 with 10 to 15 home runs every year. But you look at what he did now. Tell me you wouldn't take Nick Markakis on your team right now.
Oh yeah. Without a
You know,
doubt.
Nick Markakis in his prime is like he was so good, and he would have gotten more Hall of Fame votes if he hadn't spent the first 6 years of his career playing for really bad baseball teams.
Yeah.
You know, and if he had decided, hey, I want to keep playing longer, because he retired at like 34, 35. If he had played 5 more seasons, because you know that he takes care of his body, he's a perfectionist about his game, he would have approached 3,000 hits. He wouldn't have gotten to 3,000 hits. His career would have ended about 2,800 hits. And that's not a Hall of Fame player, but it's damn close. You know,
Oh
I'm a
yeah.
big Nick Markakis guy. I hate that he didn't get more Hall of Fame votes, but for my money, you won't find a better. You won't convince me of how do I want to say this? A more solid player that's not in elite status.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm with you there. Yeah,
like the Hall of Very Good. I think that he's above the Hall of Very Good. That's where I hold him.
mhm.
Adit wants to know: are you guys getting to the point where you just want Fromber to make up his mind?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, yeah. I'm getting to the point where I'm like Orioles. Like I feel like I'm poking a dead body. Like, are you alive? Are you still alive? I'm gonna keep poking you because like there's more moves that this team has to make. You know, when you look at what the other teams in the division have done with their rotation and some of the bats that have been added, they are they've done a great job this offseason, but they can't be done. I've gone back and forth on this. Last week I was convinced that Fromber was coming here just because it's like it just makes too much sense now because they're going to be able to get him for low years, high AAV. I'm now back to the point where I don't know that he's going to be here. And I don't care if he is or not. If he's here, I'm going to be excited. If he's not here, okay, well then who else are you bringing in? Let's get to the point.
Hmm.
Was Nick Markakis was better than Don Mattingly.
Is that a question? I guess it's a question.
Maybe he's saying like because I said I you can't convince me there was a better player that wasn't. I mean, Don Mattingly he didn't post up. You know, like he had Don Mattingly when he was at his best during his peak, he was one of the best players in all of baseball. When you look at what he did from like the mid 80s to like the early 90s, from 1984 to 1989, Mattingly compiled 33 WAR, so that's a 5.8 WAR per season. He averaged 28 homers, 120 RBI, 327, 372, 530, 902 slash line, a 147 OPS plus. He averaged over 100 runs, he averaged 97 runs and 43 doubles a year. I was doing his 162 average, but his season average was 97 runs, 43 doubles, 27 home runs, 114 RBI with a 327 batting average and 902 OPS. Don Mattingly from 1984 to 1989, you could not find a better player in baseball. He had an MVP and 2 other top 5 finishes. He was a 6-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, and 3-time Silver Slugger. The problem with Mattingly is that he had those back issues and he couldn't stay on the field. When he finally started playing 150 games again, his power was completely sapped. He was still a great hitter, but the power was completely sapped. And for me, while he was phenomenal, Don Mattingly can't be in the Hall of Fame based off of 6 seasons. He wasn't like those 6 seasons were elite status, but Sandy Koufax played like 7 years, something like that, and made the Hall of Fame because he was the best pitcher in baseball all those years. He may have pitched longer than that. But I think for a position player, the criteria is different. You've got to do it for a really long time. You don't see guys that played for 12 years generally, aside from like Jackie Robinson, making the Hall of Fame. You just don't see that. But for those 6 years, he was really good. Markakis was really good for, let's see, he retired after 2022, I think it was, or 2021.
I believe it was. So it was after.
It was after COVID.
2017.
It was
when he signed
2020.
a 4-year deal.
2020 was his last year.
So it was after 16. They let him walk. He signed 4 years with the Braves.
It was after 14. They let him walk.
How long did he play with the Braves? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, he had two contracts with the Braves. He had a 4-year contract, and then he signed another 2-year contract after 2018 when he made his only All-Star, which is stupid.
Yeah, I didn't know he was with them for that long.
But Nick Markakis, and he wasn't going to play in 2020. He wasn't going to play, and then he decided after the season started that he wanted to play. He was going to play before COVID hit, and then he wasn't going to play because of COVID. And then he decided, like, a couple weeks into the season, I want to play. And he played 37 games. But Nick Markakis played 1 year in 2012 when he had the hammock bone surgery, and then CC Sabathia broke his thumb. He played 104 games. But every other year, he played 147 games or more until 2019 when he played 116 games. But he posted up every year 160 plus hits. He scored 70 plus runs. He hit, anywhere from 15 to 23 home runs. He usually hit 30 to 40 doubles a year. He was consistently good, a consistently solid player for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Never as good as Don Mattingly at Don Mattingly's best. Never as good as Don Mattingly. But a consistently good, solid player who posted up 150 plus games a year every year for 15 years. So Nick Markakis had the longevity, and he had good, not great numbers. Daniel Pitts, agree getting the starting pitcher done so we can concentrate on getting the other pieces we need. And here's the final thing I want to say, because I know Ryan's got to get out of here, and I don't feel like being on here for another 30 minutes. The final thing I want to say, there is not a great track record of pitchers signing after teams have gotten to spring training and performing well. We know it all too well here. The Orioles signed Alex Cobb in March of 2018. And he tried to ramp up way too quickly, and he was terrible and then not available. Came back at the end of 2018 and was really good down the stretch, but the Orioles won 47 games that year, so it didn't matter. You look at what Jordan Montgomery, when he signed late in spring training with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Blake Snell signed late with the Dodgers, or was it the Padres? With the Padres. Yeah, he signed late with the Padres in 2024.
Yeah.
And Snell got off to a terrible start, then got hurt, and he was really good the second half of the year, but took him till July to get going. So you look at the track record of pitchers signing after spring training has started. I don't love it. So for me, if it's like, I want you to bring in your starting pitcher before you head down to Sarasota, because I want them there from day one. Yeah. I want them to ramp up with everybody else. All these guys, whether they're signed or not, are throwing right now. But it's different when you get into spring training, you get around your big league coaches, and you get around your teammates, and you have the proper ramp up. Get whoever you're going to bring in within the next 10 to 12 days, so that they're there from day one on spring training. And let's get after this thing. So I guess to answer the question, are you guys getting to the point where you just want Framber to make up? I'm getting to the point where I want the Orioles to make up their mind. I don't give two craps about what Framber Valdez does. If he signs here, cool. If he signs elsewhere, cool. Orioles need to make up their minds about what they're going to do for the rest of this offseason heading into spring training, because they need to do something. So, Ryan, anything else that you want to talk about, mention, plug before we get out of here today?
I got nothing to plug, man. I'm just doing my thing, being a dad. That's what I'm plugging right now, is dad life. It's the best. If you ever get an opportunity, highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, my daughter, I took her to the mall the other day because I wanted to take her to the bouncy place, but they don't let adults on the inflatables at the bouncy place at the mall.
Which is
so
stupid.
It's really stupid.
We're gonna have more fun than the kids are on those things.
Well, and it's not even because I wanted to play. It's just I'm not gonna let my 2-year-old daughter on those inflatables without me with her.
That's fair. I want to play,
but I took her into the mall. She was dancing in front of the cotton candy machine, and I put her on the carousel, but I didn't have like quarters or dollar bills on me to have the carousel go around. I took her into the Hallmark store, and I said, you can pick one thing. She immediately picks a $55 elephant that's the size of her, and I bought it for her. And then we got pizza, and it was just like, dude, it was so much fun just hanging out with her, and she's like such a happy girl. Being a dad is like the best thing I will ever do in my entire life, times a million, times infinity. Like, nothing beats it. Nothing.
Dude, I got my first belly laugh earlier this week.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my God, it was magical. I had her sitting on the floor, and I was playing with the cats, and every time the cat would run past her, she would just start laughing so hard. And
oh, man.
Dude, that's what it's all about. We've gotten plenty of little giggles and chuckles and happy screeches over the last few months, but this was the first time she was actually like laughing from her gut, and I almost broke, man. It's just every new milestone is just so awesome.
Dude, it only gets better. And I think we ended the show last week talking about our kids, which is like if you guys want good baseball talk and wholesome good dad content, like join our show. My daughter yesterday, I was about to get up to go into the restaurant, and she turns to me and she goes, "Daddy, play." She's never said "Daddy, play" to me before. Like that was a first, and it like I already didn't feel like going into the restaurant, and then like it just destroyed me. I was like, my daughter just said "Daddy, play," and I can't play, and I just want to go sit in the corner and cry.
Yeah.
Like when your daughter starts talking, man, like it's awesome. Their voices are so sweet. We gotta go. Thank you for tuning into the Bat Around. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners, fans, viewers. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. Thank you to Ryan Blake for taking time out of his busy dad life for the last 2 weeks to join us on the show. We're sorry we're not going to be able to see you next week. Still have to find a co-host for next week. Next week, our last Saturday 10 a.m. show until the fall. Then we're going, starting February 15th, we're back on Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. So be sure to set your calendars, I guess, for the Bat Around on Sunday nights at 8:30 starting February 15th. Until next week, see ya!